Moving right along, the world could soon see the next innovative breakthrough drugs developed and made in China. China recently surpassed Japan to become Asia's largest new drug developer, with 147 pharmaceutical companies involved in drug research and development, and more than 50 Chinese companies with world-leading drugs in their pipeline. And although healthcare big data systems are still in their infancy across the world, China has an opportunity to take a leading role. China's increasing senior population provides a large amount of data, with 230 million people aged 60 or above at the end of last year. To explore how this may change with the global healthcare landscape, please welcome Nisa Leung, Chuyuan, Marietta Wu, Yin Yi, all of them with Fortune Editor-in-Chief and co-chair of Fortune Brainstorm Health, Clifton Leaf.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun. I love this Innovation Idol contest. You may not know this, but you are sitting in the healthcare innovation capital of the world. And I know it may be premature to say it, but I'm actually willing to say it because if you look at the scale of the innovation happening here, of the investment happening here, of the regulatory experimentation happening here, of the willingness to take risks and look into far into the future, and also the scale of the people that you're implementing these programs with, it's here. This is where it's happening. So I'm very excited to have this, and we're going to talk a little bit about investment. And we have a couple of big investors here. So Nisa, I would love to talk with you, and then also Marietta, about how you see this sort of investment landscape. I mean, do you agree that this is the innovation capital of the world for healthcare?
Well, Qiming, we've been investing in healthcare in China for the last 11 years. And prior to that, I co-founded 3 healthcare companies in China. And I think the landscape has changed significantly over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, when I went to the largest medical equipment conference in China, I would say that 99% of the exhibitors were showing patient monitoring systems and ultrasound systems. And every year since then, we've had new technology coming out through these conferences and exhibitions. And now we have, from pharmaceutical, we have one of the first CRISPR clinical trials started. And then, of course, on the device side as well, we're looking at, transcatheter heart valves, cochlear implants, and then, of course, diagnostic as well. We are, head and head with US on the DNA sequencing technology and rollout, including NIPT and liquid biopsy. And then, of course, healthcare IT and mobile health. We have some really big companies in this sector. And then, of course, the new drug discovery as well. It's become a very, very hot sector in the last 3 years. So I think, this is becoming a very, very exciting, time, and especially since China is the second largest market in the world now for pharmaceutical. We're seeing so many multinationals and biotech firms trying they've already set up R&D centers in the last 10 years in China, but there's all these scientists, homegrown and, from the US and elsewhere, coming back to start companies. So it's very exciting.
So Marietta, you went from actually co-founding a healthcare company, a drug discovery company, to now investing in it as well. Explain what makes this area so special? Why is it so fertile for investment?
Yes, Quan Fund actually is a relatively newly set up fund to focus on investment in life sciences, in particular in therapeutics and related areas like enabling technologies. And one of the driving force behind this is because we see a wave of entrepreneurship and innovative companies coming out in China. And the environment is changing very rapidly, and also the government is putting in place a lot of positive policies and to enable this change and shift.
You talked about getting funding from the government at different levels. Just tell the audience what you mean by that.
Well, from the company level, actually, you get fundings from government, central government, and local government in terms of supporting your clinical research, discovery research, but also in terms of planning, building infrastructures. For example, Lab, the previous company I was with, that I was on the founding team with, we actually had a lot of government support in building our manufacturing facilities in Suzhou.
But now it is, we call it a synthetic biology technology. So from this perspective, U.S. is doing really well, including last year. They were thinking about how to synthesize HB writing to integrate, synthesize a whole person. And China is part of that research. And U.S. and China are developing both very quickly, and CRISPR technology is widely used in the agricultural area, for example, molecular planting. And a lot of other companies are trying to develop technologies to change the plants, and also for precision technology, precision medicine. For example, this person might have lung cancer, but his mutation spectrum could not be cured by this drug. So we changed this person's gene so that the drug could be applied and very effective. For BGI, probably you know that our sequencing technology is very good. That is well known. But recently, we also established a gene editing platform. In March, we published this article of artificial yeast. And also, together with the Salk Research Institute in San Diego, we tried in vivo CRISPR technology, DNA editing, by using CRISPR technology. So we cured a embryo that is sick. So we corrected that gene. So that was a very advanced technology which laid a very good foundation for reducing the defects when babies are born. And of course, the challenges are the same in China and the United States, which is an ethical issue. The first gene modified embryo is done in Guangzhou. They use the gene editing technology to correct this Samsomnia embryo, but it was very controversial at that time. But with the technology will continue to develop, and the rule, law, as well as ethical perspective will also, but we can balance that.
I'm actually fluent in Chinese, so thank you for that. So I understood everything you said. Chuyuan, Mr. Li, I think that's probably better, safer. We talked about this ability for the government to rethink its regulation, and in your world, in the pharmaceuticals, this is happening now, right? I mean, there's an evolution in the way you're thinking about marketing drugs and trying to get beyond the hospital structure. Is that something that you think is evolving? Where would you like it to see it go?
对，这个
Indeed. In terms of the future of pharmaceutical industry, and China's market is a huge focus. China has proposed this health China. We have this master plan of health for the overall China, and Guangzhou is the main city for the master plan. So we have this IAV plan as well, which provides good opportunities for the global investors and companies. And as for the future of pharmaceutical industry, I think I would like to share with you my point of view. Our lives is a science on one hand. It is also a philosophy on the other hand. And precision medicine and medicine is developing really quickly. And our company is a local company in Guangdong. And it is also the largest pharmaceutical company in China. 15 years ago, by using the biomedicine, we developed the vaccine which is leading the market, and also the national standard was drafted by us as well. So we are trying to launch some new vaccine as, for example, targeting the hepatitis B or other types of diseases. And that's why I said it is a life science. And apart from science, there is a philosophy for human life. What does that mean? Health started from healthcare, from treatment to recuperating. It's a whole process. Chinese traditional medicine is a precious resource. So we need to focus both the Western and Chinese medicine. Chinese traditional medicine also is very unique. And we launched this fashionable Chinese traditional medicine to modernize and scientific, make it more scientific or science-based, and it has to be popular and internationalize this Chinese traditional medicine. Because it is a whole process of healthcare to the cure, treatment, as well as recovery. Chinese traditional medicine has a very special role to play. Life is a whole system. We need to have very good, sufficient preparation. And that's why I said it is life. Life is also a philosophy. So life is a science and life is a philosophy. We need to combine them too.
It's important to sometimes take a step back from all the whiz-bang science, the exciting new technologies, and understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. We want healthy, happy people living late into life, but not spending so much on care at the end of life where we're not adding much in the way of quality life. So in the US, we actually, I think, have made a mistake. We focus so much on end-of-life care, and we spend a lot of money keeping people alive on tubes with not much better value. Here we have this extraordinary universe to understand, which is you have a much older population, 230 million people over the age of 60. That's like having an entire nation of France over the age of 60. And so you have to rethink healthcare. Let me start with you, at the end. How do we understand older populations and difference even at the genomic level?
Yeah. 其实在我的观点当中，其实这个作为
As a part of the human being, we ourselves, if we look at us from the universe perspective, actually we are very minimum. We're very small. We are just one of the varieties of life. And before 99% of the varieties of life have been destroyed. So in the previous five genocide, but the distinction of lives. And human being is making this world very chaotic, and we probably will bring the sixth genocide of the whole lives in the world. So take China, for example. Starting from 1949, the average life longevity is 39, but now it is 76, which doubled within 70 years. In Guangzhou, Shenzhen, in those areas, the expected life expectancy is 83. United States, 79. Hong Kong, 86. Because of the first aid technology is really developed in Hong Kong. A lot of people will ask, what is the expected life expectancy? And a lot of people said by 2029 you could achieve a life that you can live forever. Usually it is 8 to 7 times when you are mature. Anyway, the extreme life expectancy should be between 100 to 170. That's why in Guinness World Record, there aren't too many people exceeded 120 years of age. So we need to clarify some issues. For example, the defects when you are born, and also a lot of other issues. If we can make breakthrough over those critical issues, then it is very promising that people could reach 100 years of age, but aging society is another issue. And how can we balance a human and the environment? And also energy is very limited. I agree with what Khalif said. We cannot invest more money or resource into the late stage of people's life. That's medical care. Well, we need to focus more on healthcare. When you are normal, when you are healthy, you need to protect your health. So in BGI, we have this model. We need to have a healthy body in order to have a good work. So we need to eat well and having a lot of sports. And if you would like to die, it's better to die fast instead of die for a few months.
Before we die too quickly, one of the excitement factor about this healthcare revolution isn't just the ability to live longer and live better, but actually to take cost out of the system, to disintermediate. And this is, of course, at least traditionally in many, certainly in Western countries, a very entrenched environment. Nisa, I'd love you, are you investing in companies that can take cost out of the system?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the bases that we've been investing out of. What's really interesting is, and one of the main reasons why, we invested in Zai Labs exactly 3 years ago when there were only 2 people, right? So I think, we're seeing that it costs $3 to $4 billion to develop a drug in U.S. And about 30 to 50 million U.S. to develop drug in China, and China being the second largest market in the world. There's actually so much that we could be doing. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so many multinationals and biotech firms from all around the world to try to co-develop drugs in China for the world. I think, not only are we looking at drugs in the same way, U.S. is having a lot of healthcare cost issues, and I think Congress is needing to, look at the Obamacare and so forth. But one of the things about, and devices as well, we're also seeing it's a lot cheaper to develop devices in China. But what's one of the interesting thing is that the technology in China and the R&D capability is really, coming up very strongly. A case in point is, one of the companies that we've invested in, they are the only company to have developed an Ebola vaccine in China, and the 3rd in the world. But what's really interesting is the other 2, products developed by Merck and GSK, they all require negative 80 degrees temperature, storage, whereas the one developed in China only requires room temperature. And when you're talking about Africa, there aren't that many storage systems with negative 80 degrees. Right. So I think, what we're beginning to see, even, as I mentioned, the cochlear implant. A cochlear implant, there's one company in China, and this company is selling at 1/4 of the price compared to all the imported products. There are 3 in the world. And, when you're talking about a deaf child, each, the imported product is $25,000 US for the device alone, without the surgery costs. And 2 years would be times 2. Whereas the, Chinese one is a fraction of that. And there are 2.5 million deaf children in China. They cannot afford, 25,000 cochlear implants. So I think, we're developing, the Chinese community, the scientists are developing products not only for China, but also for the developing countries and hopefully for the world.
Marietta, I think you're the only one up here who's actually a medical doctor, right? I mean, you're a doctor and an entrepreneur. What have you learned since you've started a drug company, about better efficiencies and better outcomes in terms of making drugs here?
Well, certainly we can, because of the capability that's built up during the past decade with multinational companies moving their R&D centers and establishing their local R&D centers here, there's a tremendous pool of talent. And also with the outsourcing companies, the CROs, CMOs in China, it offers a lot of efficiency and operation. For example, with Zylab, when we first started, we took very much a very slim operation kind of model, and we used the CROs and CMOs very extensively, and we closely managed those CROs and CMOs. Excuse me. But the key is to have the people in the nose to closely manage the quality of those CMOs and work very closely with the CRO and CMO to achieve the standard of quality you want and the efficiency that you want. And within the past few years, we were able to very quickly advance some of the clinical development programs. So if done right, China, with the current infrastructure, it really offers a lot of opportunity to develop drugs very efficiently and very quickly under the local environment.
Chuyuan, I would love to follow up on this in terms of one of the challenges in drug development is this extraordinary number of late-stage failures where the cost of that is so great. How are you able to get better results in early stages to understand in clinical development whether a drug is going to have a life?
现在啊，这个对，我说说啊，对，因为呢，这个我们对生命的研究啊，就是要提。
Our research on the life is that we want to improve the quality and we want to extend the expectancy. And I know the new drugs are developed from the plants. 54% of them are from the plants. And I think we have a huge space to develop more. And so our R&D is getting a lot of attention from overseas, and we have a doctor from the U.S. and he's working with us. And on the desk you can see in this drink, Wanglaoji, it's a plant-based drink. And we also did some research, and we have a program that we want to show that by drinking Wanglaoji long term, you can improve or you can extend your life expectancy by 10 years. So I think we want to have stability, and I want all these companies come to China to develop in China and then improve our quality of life.
The Ebola vaccine, and I know that, you worked on early genomic analysis of the SARS virus.
Yes.
And so one of the great challenges we have with a very interconnected world is how fast viruses and other pathogens spread across borders. There are no borders in the global world. Talk a little bit about what BGI is focused on in that area.
Yeah. 我一直的观点。
Our perspective is that humans are humans and bacteria are bacteria. That's wrong. And I think bacteria some of them are beneficial actually, and including Ebola. And there are, of course, there are fatal ones, but then we can see that bacteria are needed for our digestion and for everything. And in our entire body, there are bacteria everywhere. And we can see that bacteria cells are everywhere in our body cells. So we need to keep a balance between bacteria and our life. And so when you are infected, I think when you drink Wanglao you can help the bacteria in your body. So we have to make that balance. And so when we are infected, actually we lost that balance. So actually we are an ecosystem. We're not separated. So we need to, we have so many proofs for that. So we did a lot of work on this, and we want to see this type of cooperation between bacteria and us. And I know for infection, we have to pay attention to, first is the abuse of antibiotics. And we know that WHO is already recognizing this issue. And because in 2020, we will see that there are no more antibiotics for else. But then you can see that by the invention of penicillin, we thought we won this battle, but then actually we lost this battle. So we need to we need to use these live germs to combat these viruses. So let's not abuse antibiotics. It's not only for us, but it's also for the ocean. It's also for our animals, and that's the fact. And the second one is that because the transportation is widespread, and one person from infected area can fly to the other area, and then this can be spread. And you can see that. So you can see that it spreads very quickly. So when we see this bad virus, that we can see that we can also use the transportation to spread the cure very fast. So I think we can use our intelligence to combat this challenge.
One is cross-border collaborations and the understanding that as money flows around the world, as technology, as ideas flow around the world, as an investor, how do you make sure that the ideas are cross-fertilizing from China to the U.S., from Silicon Valley to Guangzhou?
Yeah. Actually, we earlier this year, we're the first China VC fund setting up a U.S.-based VC fund. So we now have office in Boston, Bay Area, and Seattle. I think one of the reasons is we're seeing so many of our portfolio companies are becoming so much more mature that they are investing and licensing in and partnering and even acquiring U.S. companies. So I think so we've been doing quite a bit of the cross-border investment with our portfolio companies. And what's really interesting is, as I mentioned, the transcatheter valve company, their scientific advisory board includes the head of cardiovascular at New York Presbyterian, Cleveland Clinic. I mean, so quite a few of the top-notch U.S. Hospitals, and basically the doctors are co-developing products together with our portfolio companies, and I think that's very, very exciting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've got 46 seconds left, and we're going to keep to time. I would love to end with you, Marietta. Tell me a little bit about the ovarian cancer, the PARP drug that you've invested in, and why you're so excited. If we can keep that in 30 seconds.
Sure. So the PARP inhibitor drug is actually a partnership with a U.S. biotech company called Tesaro. It's the best-in-class PARP inhibitor in the world, and Zai Lab is developing it for the local market, for Greater China market, and we believe we can really help patients in China, ovarian, breast cancer patients, and other tumor cancer patients to really find cures very quickly. And this is really one of the strategy for Zai Lab to be the partner with global companies and quickly advance some of the leading innovations in China to accelerate the development and introduction of therapeutics into the local markets.
Thank you very much. This was a fantastic conversation. I wish we could have gone for another couple of hours. Thanks you.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, my guest.